Okay, welcome to the Trails of History podcast. Today's guest is a history YouTuber and also a history teacher and a good friend of ours, JD. You might know him from his YouTube channel called The History Underground, which has grown over 750,000 subscribers. Through his series, The History Traveler, now with more than 470 episodes, JD explores the battlefield of the American Civil War, World War I, and World War II, traveling all over the world, bringing the past back to life. He is also the co-creator of American Artifact, a series of over 180 episodes produced with his business partner Eric Dorr from the Gettysburg Museum of History. We're glad to kick off the second episode of the Trails of History podcast with JD from the History Underground. So let's roll the intro.
Soldiers, sailors, and airmen of the Allied Expeditionary Force.
We went over and we crawled. If you stood up, you were dead.
Schulden tragen den deutschen Staat, das Deutsche Reich.
What distance for pod? This is Delta for pod 3.
We shall fight in the fields and in the streets. We shall fight in the hills. We shall never surrender.
Let's rock and roll. And we're live.
Roll.
Podcast is on. JD, welcome.
Thank you. Yeah, appreciate it, man.
First guest on the Trails of History podcast. How does that feel?
I recognize him now. Setting the bar pretty low to get this thing cranking, huh?
yeah, we were trying to give you a chance to be on our podcast, right? Because you're a small YouTuber and we're so big already. But no, welcome, man. I appreciate you taking the time to jump on and having some fun on this podcast. Shaun and I prepared some questions for you, some things that we want to talk about.
Okay.
And let's have some fun.
Absolutely.
None of those questions are too scary, so don't panic.
Yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'm sure it'll be all right. I'm an open book. So
Okay. So every podcast we start with one question, and at the end we'll end with two questions, and those will be asked to every guest that will be on. So if future guests are watching now, just prepare for these questions because you'll know what's coming.
okay, so it starts with one question and it ends with two questions.
The same one
We're gonna
question
have
and the
three
the end
questions
in
on
two.
this podcast. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yeah.
Yeah, three questions, and then it's like a 5-minute podcast. So no, it's we start with one question that we do to everybody, and then we have multiple questions like specifically for people, and then at the end we have two questions that we also ask everybody.
All right, cool.
So yeah, don't make fun of my non-native speaking English.
Sprinkles on
language.
toast.
Yeah, sprinkles on toast. Yeah. So first question is really like how did you get into history and what sparked your interest into history?
Yeah, so there were several different factors that fed into my interest in history. First and foremost were probably my grandpa's. So my grandpa on my dad's side was a World War II veteran. He was stationed up on Adak Island in Alaska, part of the Alaska Command up there. Was in the Signal Corps. Unfortunately, he passed away when I was 12. So the questions that I had with him were questions that you would expect from somebody who's, under the age of 12. So pretty surface level stuff. But his story still really fascinated me. Looking through some of the pictures and things like that. And then on my mom's side, he was around just until about 5 or 6 years ago. But my grandpa on my mom's side was in the 40th Infantry Division and in the Korean War as a combat engineer.
Oh,
and grew up during the Depression and everything like that. So I can remember, as a young guy, my brother and I would go through this. He had a photo album of pictures that he had taken while he was in Korea. So he would go through and, point out these different things, showing us where the Chinese were and, who this person was, who that person was. And he would tell us, stories about, the Great Depression and stuff like that. And, I spent a ton of time with him, just out tromping the woods, turkey hunting, squirrel hunting, and he was always taking me places that, hey, this was an old mining camp. Here's an old cemetery, and we would look at the gravestones. So those were some major factors, I would say, in kind of getting the history bug lit up in me.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially, I mean, the Korean War, I've just sort of started to deep dive into a little bit, like doing a bit of my own research, because it's a bit of a forgotten conflict, I guess. It's not really brought up at the forefront of people's minds. So, but what those guys endured, obviously, all wars are hell. But when I read some of those stories, man, and I think it was one of the first times I read where a British and American unit actually formed together and stayed together throughout the entire war.
Oh, wow.
I think they had it was an American commander. Yeah, they had British Royal Marines, I think they were attached to them for the duration, and they kind of amalgamated into one unit. So I know we worked together in previous wars, but to actually consolidate into a unit because of the hell they were going through, it was pretty.
They were actually mixed British and Americans.
Yeah, it turned into. I don't know how big it was, but it's just some of the stories I've been reading.
Yeah.
But it quoted that it was the first time that they amalgamated properly. It wasn't just working alongside each other. So
wow,
really cool.
You said that it's a forgotten conflict, and of course the Korean War is called the Forgotten War. It's the middle child in our 20th century conflicts. We got World War II, there's Vietnam,
and
then right there in the middle is the Korean War.
And how many did actually? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
So the Korean War is from 1950 to 1953. Where of course the North Koreans come across the 38th parallel and invade South Korea. Even at the time, and again, I'm just pulling this from one story. Like I think that conflict was maybe misunderstood even at that time. So my grandpa, when he got home, and he was like in combat and everything like that, clearing minefields and all kinds of stuff. So he gets back and had a trying experience over there. So he gets back to the United States and he's readjusting and ended up getting a job working heavy equipment. Part of our United States interstate system was kicking up during that time. So he was part of that project to build our interstate system. But he went to our local, it was either the VFW, which stands for Veterans of Foreign Wars, or it was the American Legion. They're both veterans organizations that we have in the United States. So he went to join up with one of these veterans organizations. I can't remember what it was. And at the time, it's a lot of World War II veterans, may have had some World War I veterans in there, but predominantly World War II. And the guys in the hall just kind of laughed at him, and they said, "Come back when you fought a real war." So I think a lot of people, they just didn't understand what was going on over there. And for the rest of his life, he never joined any one of these veteran organizations.
It wasn't the same. It wasn't also sort of the same with the Vietnam War. When people came back, they were sort of looked down upon because of the atrocities that happened there, or because of the things that happened there.
To be honest, a lot of that depended on where you lived. So with Vietnam, if you lived on the East Coast and especially the West Coast, they had a lot of problems with people harassing them at the airport and stuff like that. I have an uncle who was in Germany at the time, and he got back. It would have been like mid to late 60s. He was in the Air Force and lived in the Midwest where I'm from. And he was advised, he said, "Hey, when you get back to the airport, it might not be a good idea to wear your uniform, at the airport, change out of it before you get home." So there were guys who had a hard time. I've also talked to a lot of Vietnam veterans, in my area in the Midwest. People were a little bit more patriotic here, a little bit more supportive of the military. So I've talked to a lot of guys who had no issues whatsoever with, being harassed or anything like that.
Yeah.
Still had a difficult time just because the way that they were doing things in Vietnam was, well, I don't think they just fully understood
Yeah.
how to transition guys out of combat and back into real life. This is actually a conversation my grandpa and I had one time. Because I don't even know, we were out in the truck feeding cattle and for some reason got to talking about it. But he was comparing his experience with the guys in Vietnam. And he said, if I had to do it over again, he said, I would have signed up for like another, 3 years of like stateside duty or something like that. He said something to just kind of transition me out.
Yeah.
He said, he said they had us up on the front line way too long. And he never went into deep detail about it, but, just kind of hinted at the fact that he had some struggles. He said, when we were done, we went back to Japan. They put us on a boat, and he said we had this long boat ride over the Pacific Ocean. And he said it gave us time to kind of decompress. We had other guys that we could talk to. In Vietnam, you might be in the jungle on Monday. They pull you out on Wednesday, and by Saturday, you're home.
Oh, you're back in the US.
There's no decompression.
And it was just jarring to some of these guys.
Yeah.
So,
and I think that the tour lengths there was like 12 to 13 months, right, in country. It wasn't like, I know they rotated out on R&R or like rest and recuperation, but those tours were long.
Yeah. And like the average, oh man, I don't have the numbers off the top of my head, but like the average soldier or Marine in Vietnam, I forget, if you look at days in combat, like frontline and everything, between a Vietnam soldier and somebody in World War II, it doesn't even compare. Like they spend way more time. And the Pacific guys would have encountered this, but the environment is highly stressful.
I bet. Yeah. Like if a Bush starts speaking Vietnamese while you're running there, I understand why it's stressful. So the Vietnam War was from 1955 till 75, if I'm correct?
As far as American involvement, you're looking at more significant American involvement. You're probably looking at more 63 to 65 to 1975. Yeah. So the fall of Saigon is in the spring of 1975.
Yeah, just to make that war dragged on for a long time, right?
Yeah.
Like how many presidents were during that war? 2 American presidents?
Oh, no, more than that.
More.
Yeah, so really the start of it is going to be, you could maybe even make an argument as far as significant involvement. It really starts ramping up under Kennedy, and then Lyndon Baines Johnson is going to inherit it.
Oh yeah.
Okay, and then after Lyndon Baines Johnson is going to be Nixon.
Yeah.
And then 1975 is when we get out, and that's going to be during the Ford administration.
And of course, every president as well, it's a new set of rules. Things change. They want to do this. We want to do it this way. So the way that translates to the boots on the ground, it must have been hell having to go through those changes. So
Man, so literally while we're on the topic, we can just skip a few questions, just go immediately to the MACV-SOG, right?
Yeah, so I've had a bit of an obsession. I don't know why or where it came from about MACV-SOG and those guys. I think I stumbled across an audiobook on Audible, listened to it, and that was it. Then I was hooked. I listened to so many books about SOG, and then I think my obsession got transferred to Sander a little bit, because I'm like, hey man, like you need to listen to this book, and it's become a bit of a deep dive for me. But I think attached to that question is, and while we're on the topic of Vietnam, is that are we likely to see some episodes on your channel around Vietnam?
I definitely have intentions of going to Vietnam. It's just a matter of when to get there. That's at least for me, that's a pretty big trip.
Yeah.
To
For
put
us as
together.
well, even though we had no involvement, both our countries, like Shaun always says that when he's British, and the British had almost no involvement in Vietnam, right?
Yeah.
Like fighting wise, and it's just so appealing to him, and he's sort of, like he said already, he's sort of
It was reading the SOG stories, and some of those guys, like 21 years old, and the missions they were going on. We all grew up watching our action heroes and stuff, but these guys really seem to live it. And it's hard to believe, reading the stories. And I started listening to SOGcast, which is put on by John Stryker Meyer. With the help of Jocko Willink, I believe. I think I'm on episode 5 now, and a couple of the guys he's had on have written books, which are the books I started Sander on. But yeah, I guess Nick Brockhausen, John Stryker Meyer's books have been phenomenal. I can't remember the other author, SOG Medic, I think it was. He was a medical guy. But yeah, what's your opinion on the SOG guys, JD? I mean, do you hear about them much in the States? Are they still sort of classed as heroes? Because for me and Sander being English and Dutch, the way we read about these guys is probably a different perception from how people stateside would.
So I would say that the average American probably doesn't know just a whole lot about the SOG guys. It's been in recent years here where the Vietnam War veterans are finally starting to get the recognition that is due to them, and I think that as our World War II generation has all but faded, and really the Korean War guys too, because that's the same generation, and it's actually it's more difficult to find a Korean War veteran than it is a World War II veteran, because there were less of them, and again they're part of that World War II generation, honestly.
Yeah.
But there weren't as many of them who went over there, so it's more difficult to find a Korean War veteran. I think we're going to start hearing more of. I think there's going to be an attention shift to what happened, in Vietnam, and hearing some more of these stories. There was a little bit of a bump in the 80s that came along with Platoon and Hamburger Hill, the movies, and then in the United States we had a couple of TV shows that ran in the 80s. One of them was called China Beach, and the other one was called Tour of Duty.
I remember Tour of Duty. Yeah, I think that aired in the UK actually. I vaguely remember that. And obviously, Apocalypse Now, Platoon, they were all huge over here as well. So I guess that certainly brought to light what went on.
Yeah, so that kind of peaked in the late 80s. Like you had Platoon, and then you had Hamburger Hill, and then you had these two TV shows. I never watched China Beach, but my dad watched Tour of Duty. He had a couple of brothers who were in Vietnam. He tried to get in. He went to every single branch of service, but he had cataracts in his eyes, and couldn't get in. But anyway, so you asked the question earlier about how I got into history. Like Tour of Duty, I would watch that with my dad. I also remember watching a documentary series with him, and I was probably 7 or 8 watching this.
You see a lot of guys fighting, and
so there was of course news coverage of it, and my dad's talking to me about it. And then there's a famous, you see it a lot in the photos, but there's a video that happened during the Tet Offensive where this Viet Cong guerrilla was captured, and a South Vietnamese colonel, and I'm really, really bad at Vietnamese.
Oh, in the street.
Yeah, his name was...
I know which one you mean.
Nguyen Loc Lon or something like that. I can't pronounce his name. But anyway, I'm pretty sure he's a colonel. just walks up with this snub-nosed revolver and puts it
Yeah.
right to this kid's head and shoots him in the head, and he flops over, and there's blood that is coming out, and I'm sitting there as like his kindergartner watching this, and I looked at my dad, and I'm like thinking, was I supposed to see what I just saw? and he just kind of looked at me and shrugged, like, yeah, that's what happened.
So that's where it went wrong with you then.
Yeah.
That's where it went all downhill.
So you guys know what clip I'm talking about, right? If you
Yeah. In the streets. There was in the streets.
I think it turned into quite a famous photo as well, right? In the magazines at the time.
Yeah. They catch it right as the Viet Cong guerrilla's head is impacted. Do you know what happened to that? Again, I'm saying a South Vietnamese. I'm calling him a colonel, so I could be wrong on that. Do you know what ended up happening to him?
No clue.
He ended up immigrating to the United States and opened up a pizza place in New Jersey, I think.
Actually?
Yeah.
Is he still alive today? Oh,
no.
He's still alive today.
Yeah, I think he died of cancer back in the 90s, if I remember right.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Whoa.
I could look it up and fact check myself.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just
it's been a while since I've accessed this information, so I could be a little bit off on my details.
But still,
I do know that he had a pizza place.
That scene is so iconic, right? Like that's been used. If you type in on Google like Vietnam War, if you scroll down a bit, you'll probably see that still image of the guy.
Yep.
He ran a pizza place in America.
Yeah.
Well, only in America, right? If it was in the Netherlands or in the UK, probably that would have not happened.
Yeah, his name was hang on a second. Yeah, and again, he was a general. I'm sorry,
a
general.
Ooh, watch out there.
And I can't say this name, but Nguyen Ngoc Loan. Yeah.
Wait.
And
he did a way better job than what I would have done.
With his American accent, loan. You agree, loan.
And then, hang on, we're just doing some real-time fact checking here.
Yeah, sure.
So yeah, I was right. He died of cancer in 1998 in Virginia, and had a pizza parlor there.
Dude,
that's crazy.
Can you send me that name on WhatsApp after after the facts? Because now I'm gonna steal this idea and I'm gonna make a video about this.
Yeah.
I'm gonna make a video about that iconic scene though. Although I cannot show that on YouTube, right?
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to show that.
No.
Well, you can, but
we can try.
But you're
gonna get age restricted pretty quick.
Yeah, probably. Yeah. So the questions answers right on also some MACV-SOG things. Do you think that you'll capitalize a little bit more on that on your channel in the future?
Yeah. So on the channel we have basically two pillars that prop the channel up. One is a series called History Traveler, as the name implies. It's travel to historic places, and then the other one is with the Gettysburg Museum of History, which if you're watching the video version, there's our logo on the hat that interprets history through artifacts in the museum. And we've got a giant collection there of MACV-SOG patches because they would name them after states. So there was Missouri, Montana, and everything like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, Eric Dorr has this massive collection of them. We did a video on it at one point. Yeah,
I could remember that. It was like 2 years ago, right?
Yeah, I vaguely remember one.
Yeah, I've not met anybody who was in SOG, but I hope to at some point.
We want so bad somebody from the MACV-SOG on the podcast, right?
Yeah.
Like that would be such a cool thing just to have him on here and tell his experience in Vietnam and what it was like, also daily life in MACV-SOG. Like that's also because they worked a lot with the South Vietnamese there.
Yes.
So some
so
cool stories
it's
probably
something that I'm still learning about too. And I've have known Vietnam veterans my whole life, and in recent years have just kind of started interviewing them a little bit more. I interviewed a lot more World War II veterans, but
Yeah.
Yeah. So Shaun, I didn't tell you that I was talking to Sander the other day, and well, actually this week I'm going to be flying out to Boston, and I purchased a door off of a Vietnam era Huey helicopter.
Oh wow!
Yes.
How much is shipping to the UK? Just out of curiosity.
I don't know whether it is the UK, but anyway, I'm going out to pick this thing up, and I'm going to keep it localized, to my area, but start like finding Vietnam War veterans and then have them sign this door.
Oh wow!
And put the years that they were in Vietnam and also what unit they were with.
Yeah.
And then accompanying that, I'll have some interviews with them. So it'll be kind of like a local folk art history piece.
That'll be really cool.
Yeah, write a book.
I've been trying to find something to fill this wall behind me. So I've got a map, but I think a Huey door would probably.
So huge, Huey door of a helicopter.
Yeah, I'm not sure the wife would be too happy, but oh well.
Okay, just now we're gonna do something completely off topic. Then nothing about the Vietnam War anymore. So we want to go back a little bit to you with your YouTube channel, right?
Sure.
So we have this question, like, what was a more special feeling for you? Was it hitting 100 subscribers, 1,000 subscribers, 100,000, 500,000? What was the most, what was more special for you? I know everyone is special, of course, but what was more?
Yeah, sure. So to be honest, when I started a YouTube channel, I had no idea about anything with YouTube. Like I got into this thing just completely blind, and was just here's what I knew about YouTube is I knew that the high school age kids were a bunch of YouTube junkies, and since that's where they were, I thought, okay, well, I'll post videos on history videos on here, and if other teachers can use it or anything like that, then so much the better. So I didn't know anything about any kind of awards or that channels could be monetized. I knew nothing. Once I kind of got into it, though, I would say probably that 100,000 subscriber mark was the one where I was like, oh wow,
that's a lot of people.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
But I value all of them. And then when it hit 500,000, that was probably another mark where I was like, holy cow, this is wild.
It rolls off the tongue, 500,000.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And then when it hit 750,000, well, now I can say 750,000. Instead of saying
yeah. Which was not that long ago.
749,000, or something like that.
Yeah.
Crazy. And well deserved.
I mean, what means the most to me out of that, to me, it's it's not an ego thing where I can puff out my chest and say, oh yeah, I have 750,000 subscribers or anything like that. To me, what that represents is, man, that's a lot of people who have taken an interest in history. And I know that there are other history channels that are significantly bigger than mine. So that's encouraging to see that many people who are into the topic and wanting to learn.
And it probably was pretty easy for you to sort of step in to YouTube and making videos, right? Because in real life, you're also a history teacher, and now online, you are also a history teacher. Then the audience is more broader, of course, than only a class with 20 or 30 people, which you a few weeks ago called me in the middle of class and put me on the spot, remember? So you are online now as well, also a history teacher. So it sort of really beautifully connects with each other.
Yeah, I guess it works. I mean, that's one piece of feedback that I've had from people. On the rare occasion that I do get out of my cave and interact with people, one of the pieces of feedback that I get, is people say, "Wow, this is kind of crazy. You're just the same in real life as you are on your YouTube channel." And I'm like, yeah, I would be a terrible actor. So it's just you're when you see the YouTube channel, you're literally just seeing me. It's not any kind of, act or projection of anything other than what I am.
Well, for the people watching and listening, this is what he says now on camera. We are his friends behind the camera. Oh, he's the worst. No, I'm just joking. No, it's literally what you say, right? Like Shaun and I can vouch for that.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, you're literally the same guy behind the camera as you are in front of the camera.
Yeah, so with the YouTube channel, I just took that element, the history background, the history education background. Also had a background, in video production, and just kind of welded those two things together. And
and now you're here.
Went from there. Yeah,
crazy how life goes.
Yeah,
and like you said, I think as a training aid for other teachers and stuff, like that's not something I've really considered before, but that's really good. And I can highlight, as a teacher training aid, a friend of mine's daughter, she was having to write a paper on World War II and didn't really know where to start. And that's when I actually said, well, you've got YouTube, start checking these guys out. And I think she did in the end. And she wrote this paper and got like an A+ or A*, whatever it is. And that was just based off. So I watched my friend Sander, then there's JD, and then you've got Chris, and then you've got that. And then, she got the A*. Whether she actually learned or just copied it down, but hey, here's what it is.
So I'll tell you what, when I was in school, which was a while back now, like it was generally just kind of expected that, oh, okay, you went through elementary school and middle school and high school. The next natural step is you go to college. Like I personally don't remember really, with my guidance counselors that we have at the school that help with like career choices and things like that. Like I really honestly don't recall having been given any other options. It was just like expected. Okay, well, yeah, the next thing you do is now you go to a college. Okay, so that's what I did. Now, and that was kind of at the birth of the internet on a wide, broad scale, an accessible internet. So we got the internet at my school when I was a sophomore in high school. Now, man, I tell a lot of people, and students included, like, hey, if you like, okay, you want to be a photographer, go to YouTube University and learn your craft there. It's free, and you'll learn everything that you would possibly need to know. I can go on YouTube and I can get access to the world's leading historians talking about any number of topics.
Yeah.
Okay, so our friend Paul Woodage, World War II TV.
Yeah.
Like you can get a master's level education in World War II just by watching his channel. It's incredible.
It's insane. Yeah.
His minds. So yeah, lots changed, and just like that, you can learn so much.
Yeah, it's really cool though. I like it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what was the next question, Sander? That's all you, buddy.
Oh, is that all me? Oh, I was waiting for you to pick it up. But so the next question is, how did you meet Eric for the first time, and how did it evolve into a partnership?
Yeah. So Eric Dorr.
Cool guy, by the way. I love him. Absolutely fantastic bloke.
Great guy. And
yeah.
And I can say even behind the scenes, like he's personally been quite generous to me in a lot of different ways. So anyway, to answer your question first, so early on in the channel, I had a series that I did in Gettysburg. I can't remember what number it was. I'll have to go back and look at it. There's a playlist on my channel where you can go back and see all those episodes. I would do it so much different now. I think I would do a better job now than what I did then. But anyway, I had a bunch of people who were recommending this place called the Gettysburg Museum of History. they're like, man, you won't believe it what this museum has in it. Like it's got some insane artifacts. And so I sent an email and was like, hey, my name is JD. I have a YouTube channel and stuff like that. No reply. So I'm like, okay. Which at that time, Eric was operating the entire thing. He was operating the website, the museum, everything by himself. Okay, so he's getting flooded with emails all the time. So anyway, mine slipped through the cracks. And while I was out there, connected with some other people who were starting a museum there at the time, and went out to the place and saw what they had, and they said, hey, why don't you come to dinner with us tonight? We meet with these people every Wednesday or whatever it was. So my wife and I went, and Eric was one of the people there at dinner. So he started asking me about what I did, and he said, well, hey, he said, why don't you come by the museum tomorrow and check it out? He said, I'll let you in early, come by about 9 o'clock or something. So anyway, I went in, checked it out, and I'm like, holy cow, this is crazy. So in that Gettysburg series, because I asked him, I said, hey man, could I come back and film some of this stuff? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. So I went back the next day. And if you go back to that Gettysburg series, I think I ended up splitting it up into like 3 episodes. And it was completely off the cuff. Yeah. And it was just basically me following Eric around saying, hey, here's this, here's this. Here's Hitler's shirt. Here's Himmler's glasses. Here's Marilyn Monroe's bra. Here's Dick Winter's uniform. All right. So
it's insane.
It's insane stuff. And I had some people gig me on that. We're like, oh man, the lighting wasn't very good, or oh, you didn't show the artifacts very well. And I'm like, we had an hour before the museum opened. Okay. And it was just completely off the cuff. So after that, the episodes came out, blew up. They did really, really good. And he started getting tons of people coming to the museum, and his website traffic picked up. And I sent him an email and I said, hey, you got a lot of stuff there. You ought to start a YouTube channel and just show your artifacts on it and everything. And he fired back and he said, hey, I have a better idea. How about we just start a new show on your channel?
Oh, wow.
I was like, okay.
Yeah, that's even better. Thanks for asking.
No problem.
I was like, yeah, we can maybe do that. And that was the genesis of the American Artifact series. And that the partnership with Eric, if people like the content that they've seen, the most viewed video that I have on my channel is at Hitler's Eagle's Nest. All of that is Eric, because he has all kinds of amazing contacts and things like that. And really, without him, the channel wouldn't be what it is now. So yeah, super generous guy.
It was a big win-win situation, right? So for you, your views going up, you have cool artifacts to show, you have more content. For him as well, like you said, traffic on the website, people going there, like, hey, I've been here through the History Underground, and how amazing is this? And I remember you were with the Gettysburg Festival, film festival, was it?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So the line outside of his museum, oh my God. I'm sitting here behind my computer and I see you standing there, Marcel, Eric, and Chris, and I just see that line and I'm like, wow. Like, so
gnarly.
cool.
Yeah. So that's, well, here, I'll tell another story about Eric. That's just kind of a behind the scenes thing that I may have told it once before, but yeah, anyway. So 3 years ago, when the Russia-Ukraine conflict really ramped up, and Russia, which had already occupied Crimea and was in the Donetsk and Luhansk area, they just have this full-on offensive where they're making a drive towards Kiev. I have some personal connections with Ukraine, and Long story short, I wanted to go help in whatever way that I could. So made some arrangements to work with a group over there on the border. Went to my boss and said, here's the deal, I'm leaving and I don't know when I'm coming back.
Yeah.
And they were like, okay. So we made arrangements there. So I called Eric and told him, I'm like, hey man, I'm sorry. This is what's happening. I'm going to be gone. I don't know when I'm coming back. Everything on the channel is going to be in limbo for a little bit. And he said, whatever you need, we'll cover it. Really, really helped me out in a generous way, because I wasn't going to be making any money during this time, or any, like, everything locked up.
Yeah.
And did some fundraising to get things to the refugees while I was over there. He was a huge part behind the scenes.
I remember that.
Of organizing some pretty significant funds to help these people.
Wow.
And I've seen him do that kind of stuff a lot, and nobody knows about it.
Wow.
First I've heard of it. It's incredible.
Yeah, same for me as well. And I'm thinking, like, when you're in bad times, you'll really see who your real friends are, right?
Yep.
And especially like a guy like Eric just doing that type of stuff is just
yeah. And he asked me, he's like, tell me what you need. I want to help.
Yeah.
I've seen other cases where one in particular, somebody said, hey, know of this World War II veteran who is down on his luck, and Eric be like, okay, what can I do? Let's help this guy out. Okay. Yeah. And that's stuff that nobody talks about. Anyway, that has evolved, ended up becoming a partner with the museum, and now we are launching this massive expansion that we're getting ready to kick off. So Eric bought the building next to the museum, because if you go into that museum, Marcel may have talked to you about it, like, it's jammed with all kinds of stuff. So this stuff
it's way too small.
Yeah, it needs some room to breathe. So we're going to expand out to this new building, and Eric has fronted the money for that himself. And by the way, this museum has always and will continue to be completely free to the public.
Yeah, it's crazy, right?
Because he cares about history, and he wants it to be accessible to people.
Yeah.
So
he should get way more recognition. He has a lot of recognition already. Don't get me wrong, but I think he deserves even way more.
Yeah.
Just be way more on the map.
Yeah.
We've spoke as well, Sander. That's one thing we must do is get over there and visit ourselves.
Oh, dude. I would love for you guys to come over and spend a couple days walking the battlefield there in Gettysburg, and
that'd be so cool.
And go see.
And again, it was Sander. I think it was when you did the map animations for JD on some of the war sites around there. That was when I was just like, I don't really know much about that. And then that was it. Then it was like, I need to go to Gettysburg.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get like a OCD with stuff where I hyper focus, and I'm like, I can't rest now until
the historic rabbit holes.
Yeah, it's literally what happened. It's like me and like MACV-SOG. I need medication for it, I think.
Yeah. Gettysburg is the gateway drug into the Civil War.
Civil War.
Yeah. I've heard that said a lot.
Yeah. Once you, this has been my personal experience. Like, once you kind of understand Gettysburg, it helps you to understand everything else from that. If you spend time like learning, okay, how were the armies organized? Where did these guys come from? Okay, so I mean, it's in Gettysburg, there were physically 10 roads that led into that town. That's why the battle is fought there in Gettysburg, and metaphorically, all roads lead to Gettysburg. And lead out from it. So yeah, it'd be great if you guys could come over and
do 100%.
I'm walking it.
We should maybe do something next year or so. Just a few months, more than half a year, just ahead, plan it out, and then just go 2026, 2027. Because
we get something planned for sure. Because I'd look forward to just heading back out to the States. It's been a long time since I've been there, and tucking into some of the history will be great. So
yeah,
good stuff.
All right. Do you want to do the next one?
Yeah.
But
I'll
say
save
it
that one.
correctly.
I'll save that one for you.
I'll save that one
Yeah,
for me.
that's definitely your baby. But
Okay.
this is kind of a bit follows on actually reference museums, I guess. But I think we have briefly spoke about stuff before in private in our friend groups. But what's your opinion on some of the historical sites getting more commercialized? The Bois-Jacques, Pointe de Hoc, especially with the fences that are going up, and the modern museums being walls of text and not many relics. What's your opinion on that?
It's not favorable. I don't have a favorable opinion of it. Yeah. So I feel fortunate. So speaking specifically about the Bois-Jacques, I feel very fortunate that I was able to go there when I did. You can go see a video that I shot there when it was still kind of semi-wild. And for people who don't know what we're talking about, the Bois-Jacques, if you've watched the series Band of Brothers, this is where Easy Company, not only Easy Company, but a lot of units with the 101st rotated in and out of there. The 10th Armored was there for a little bit. But anyway, it's this town, or I'm sorry, it's this patch of woods just south of the town of Foy, depending on how you look at it. Yeah. The Americans pronounced it Foy.
Foy.
Did you feel Red Yarns with a big stick behind his head calling it Foy?
But anyway, you could go see what were known as the Easy Company foxholes, and you still can today. And then there's basically it was through a local museum. They fenced off this portion just because of its connection with Band of Brothers, and put like what do you call a little turnstile or something like that?
Yeah, where you have to scan a card.
Where you have to pay money in order to access this 3 to 5 acre patch of woods and go see these foxholes. I really don't like that at all.
No.
Yeah, and kind of with museums and stuff like that. If I go to a museum, I want to see something physical. I want to see an artifact that connects me to the history. To me, that's what a museum does. And I've been plenty of these modern museums where it's a whole lot of reading and a whole lot of text, and I don't want to disparage those too much. It's that one for me as a personal preference. It's not for me. Now, if somebody else goes there and they learn about it, if you go to Germany and go to a lot of the like Holocaust type museums that they have there, that it's a lot of that.
Yeah.
So if somebody goes there and they learn history in that way, okay, good. I'm all for it. To me, if I want to read, I'll pick up a book. I don't want to go. I don't want to go to a museum and read.
No, like 3.5 hours of reading.
I want to see something.
Yeah.
See something there.
Well said.
The way a lot of them are going, though, you're just greeted by a wall of text, and you just think, it becomes a bit more tiresome than anything.
And I think that's one thing that, again, not to toot our own horn here, one thing that people find appealing about coming to the Gettysburg Museum of History is you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you have, Joshua Lawrence Chamberlain's field desk, and you have Stephen K. Warren's house. Okay, those are Gettysburg connections there. It's
it's just so crazy.
I'll be looking for the SOG section.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. You know what? I'm just gonna say it. What took you so long to finally do it, Mr. Hewitt? What took you so long to finally do it? And you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
Know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Market Garden.
I'll tell you what, I get a lot of people making a lot of suggestions about places to go, which I completely appreciate. A lot of places that I've come across has been from people saying, "Hey, you ought to check this place out." And then I look into it, I'm like, "Oh wow, that is really cool." In the entire time span that I've had the channel, I've had more requests from Dutch people to come to the Netherlands and do something on Market Garden than anything else. And I think it was getting to the point where a lot of my Dutch viewers were starting to feel personally offended that I hadn't
The
been
lynch
to
mob
the
was
Netherlands.
forming.
Yeah.
Yeah, we were
Yeah.
offended. Yeah. So
Yeah, finally got out there about a month or two ago. What is it now? Yeah, about a month ago or so.
a month already, huh?
Yeah,
Time
month
flies.
and a half. Yeah, focusing specifically on the 82nd Airborne at Nijmegen in Market Garden. So I know that I'm going to release that series, which is going to be soon, depending on when this comes out.
Next Thursday.
Okay. Yeah, so it'll be soon after, the initial release of this this episode. I already know that I'm going to have people gigging me because I didn't go to Arnhem.
No.
I didn't go to Eindhoven and talk
Nice
any
excuse to
101st
come
Airborne.
back.
Yeah, that does. It gives me an excuse to come back.
Yeah.
And the reason that we focus solely on Nijmegen is that I was over there with Andrew Biggio, who's the author of The Rifle, and we had a World War II veteran with us by the name of Gene Metcalf, who was in the 82nd Airborne. He's probably the last 82nd Airborne veteran who will ever visit the Market Garden battlefields. So anyway, I wanted to just have a laser focus on the 82nd Airborne and kind of building out that story around him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and loved it. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
People have no clue what happens behind the scene, like filming those episodes of Market Garden. The time stress, all the effort, the sleepless nights for me especially, the sleepless nights. Like this guy, he's like a machine with his camera. Like it's actually insane. No food, no water, no sleep.
I heard a lot, JD. It was like daily phone calls of him moaning.
Yeah.
I was like, man, I'm at work and you're ringing me. Like, shut up and get on with it. Do what JD tells you to do and stop your moaning.
I'm like, yes, boss. Yes, boss. I'm gonna do that. Yeah. Although I have to say, I would do it all over again because it was so much fun. It was just also just showing, being with you on those Market Garden places was cool. And then to add to that, like, what was your experience with Market Garden, but also what do you think of the whole operation of Market Garden? Like, I know beforehand you knew a little bit of it, but now probably after the trip you know a lot more.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I think that's any place that you go. I know you guys have spent a lot of time on the World War I battlefields and things like that. It's one thing to read about it, and as far as my depth of knowledge on Market Garden, of all the stuff in World War II, Market Garden's kind of a weak point for me. So getting out and actually walking the ground, it gives you an opportunity to really increase the depth of knowledge that you have. I mean, going back to Gettysburg, my first trip to Gettysburg, I had read about it for a long time. I watched the Gettysburg movie, and then looked at, all these flat maps. Going there and seeing the terrain and seeing that, I always thought that it was pretty flat. And then there was like a couple big hills and a couple of ridges. You get down on the ground, man, the whole thing makes a lot more sense.
The whole perspective changes on the battle or the operations.
Yeah. And
I was just to say that's certainly the case for most battlefields. I think until you actually get on the ground, you're like, okay, I get it.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. So being able to walk the ground there and step back and look at it and be like, oh, okay, now that I remember reading this, now it makes a lot more sense.
Yeah.
Why they couldn't do this or why they made this move from here to here.
Yeah. That's cool. So, Shaun, should we do the last 4 that we skip a few questions because we've already been talking for 55 minutes?
That's pretty good going.
This is my problem here. I just start yapping on stuff, and then I
No.
can't shut
Like
it off.
that's perfect. That's good. Like I would rather do this for like 3-4 hours straight, but yeah, that's way too long, of course. And we have within 35 minutes another meeting.
But I think if we do one more and then the final 2, that should be pretty good.
Yes. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Should we do the one you wish more people care about?
I'm gonna pick one.
Oh, Sean's
The one that I'm keen to. Have you ever stood somewhere, JD, that fundamentally changed your perspective on a certain historic topic? So picture yourself, you stood there, you're staring out, and then the perspective changed.
Yeah. I would say, man, this is going to seem like such an easy button stock answer, but my first trip to Normandy, I went into that trip with an understanding of Normandy that I'm sure a lot of people have, which is Saving Private Ryan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then going down and standing at the Dog Green sector at low tide and facing the English Channel, and then turning around and looking back at the bluffs. I was like, oh,
yeah.
The beach in Saving Private Ryan was a little bit smaller.
Yeah.
It's like compared with this, right?
Beach.
Yeah.
And that gave me a fundamental new perspective on that battle and what those guys had to do. And here's something else that it did is it changed my perspective in that people think that the whole beach was the opening scene to Saving Private Ryan the entire time. And when you get there and you see how long that beach actually is, about 5 miles long, 5 or 6 miles long, it's kind of in this little half moon shape.
Yeah.
And then, here's the D1 draw, and here's this draw, and here's this draw. And you realize, okay, so these are the points that were heavily defended and reinforced by the Germans. But there's actually some weak points, in between these draws and in between these Widerstand nests. And it wasn't Saving Private Ryan, the entire way. There were some guys that landed on the beach and didn't really encounter any heavy fire at all.
Mm-hmm.
And were able to access points where they could then go around and get behind these strong points. So that also fundamentally kind of changed my view of that battle as well.
That's a pretty good answer, to be fair.
Yeah, I think when you wrote the list of questions, I tried to answer that myself. And naturally, I did think when I'd been to Normandy, albeit it was a long time ago, I have not been in recent years. That, and I think for me, it was like the Hawthorne mine crater. And I was just like,
yeah.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That was a lot of explosives. and then when I kind of rewatched the original footage, and then you look at the numbers, fundamentally I was changed. I was just like, okay, I get it.
So here's the answer that I almost gave was Vimy Ridge and the Arras battlefields. Vimy Ridge, in that you look at the mine craters that they moved up to, and then you see how close those guys were.
Yeah.
And that no man's land is actually about 25 yards. I was like, holy smokes, man.
Yeah.
And then you get down into the plains there by Arras. One of the videos that I did there was showing the spot where Jack Harrison was awarded his Victoria Cross. And you get out there, and the World War I concept, when they talk about a ridge, okay, so I grew up in the Ozarks in the Midwest, and we got a different concept of what a ridge is compared to what they call a ridge in World War I. They have like a molehill, that's 100 yards out, and they're like, oh, okay, well, here's such and such ridge. It's like an elevation change of 5 feet. But looking at how flat it is,
Yeah.
and realizing, oh my gosh, there's no cover. There's nothing.
There is no
like that.
ridge. Yeah.
That also was kind of a pivotal moment. Speaking, with World War One and understanding what those guys went through.
So you've been to Verdun, right? You've been to the ossuary, the
Yes.
Duelmont ossuary.
Yeah.
So for me, when I went there and I saw the skeletons,
Yeah.
the skeletons looking back, and then you look it up, and then you see 120,000 missing soldiers are only in that ossuary. Then you're like, dude.
Yeah.
And you see about all around, you see all the craters and stuff. Like, that's for me what completely changed my perspective.
Yeah,
Like,
that's a good
actually
one too.
skulls watching to you.
That is
and
a good one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This was me. Yes.
You fall down the rabbit hole now. You're like, oh, what about this?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, just wait for the last two questions. That's also a little bit of a rabbit hole. Should you do the first question? I'll do the last, Shaun. The two questions.
The final two. So these are the
final two.
So we said we always start with one question and we're going to end with two questions. And that's going to be to every guest, and whatever happens in between happens. So the first one, if you could have a sit down with one person from history, who would it be and why? And what do you think you'd say to them?
Yeah. So the quick and easy answer for me on this one, if I sat and thought about it, I would probably. Ooh, man! Now that I'm even saying that, I'm coming up with different answers.
Yes,
in my head, because at first,
Going to trip him up. I told you I would.
Yeah. So the first knee-jerk reaction that I had to that question, Teddy Roosevelt. So Teddy Roosevelt is my favorite president of all time. The man was an absolute force of nature. And I think that with anything in history, you kind of gravitate towards people that you either aspire to be like, or that you maybe feel like you have something in common with. So Teddy Roosevelt, he's a big outdoorsman, big conservationist. So that's kind of a little bit of a common thread that I think that I would have with him. I would love to talk to him about his hunting trips, and when he went to Africa, when he spent his time out in the Dakotas and everything like that.
Man. Yeah.
And also he's like he's a highly principled man. He's not a perfect man. He makes some mistakes and he holds some opinions that I would disagree with. But he's a man of his time at the same time. But he's also this highly driven individual. Like I said, he's an absolute force of nature. He had these things that he would do that were called point-to-point walks, where he would just get out in the woods or in the mountains or something like that, and he would look out on the horizon or look out in the distance, and he would pick out a point. He's like, oh, okay, that big tree right there, or that rock or whatever. I'm walking to that. And in these point-to-point walks, he would make it a point to go straight, and it didn't matter what the obstacle was in front of him. He's not going around it. He's going to go over it or through it or whatever. So if he gets into some heavy brush or something like that, he's going to get down on his hands and knees and he's going to crawl through it.
Oh, really?
And it was kind of like a personal challenge to him. Yeah. So the guy is absolutely a force of nature. And then as I was thinking about that, I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'd like to meet this person, talk to this person, something like that. Another one that I think would be fascinating, going back to more ancient history, would be the Apostle Paul, who wrote most of the New Testament in the Bible.
Yeah.
This is a man who, when you read his accounts of what he went through, just had everything thrown at him, and yet persevered until he's eventually executed under the rule of Nero.
Yeah.
But he would be an interesting one to sit down and talk with as well.
That's a good one. Yeah, I would actually thought that you would say Jesus Christ, but now when I hear you, like Paul, who wrote everything, and that makes also a little bit more sense as well.
Yeah.
Like that's a good one.
Yeah.
So okay, and let me say you could pick just quickly another one. Just one person. Another one. You have Roosevelt, you have Paul, just another one. Let's do it for free.
Okay. So it's Teddy Roosevelt, the Apostle Paul. If I'm going to grab a third one, man, I don't want to pick a low-hanging fruit like a George Washington or a Lincoln or something like that.
Okay. I thought you had one ready, but that's why I asked
again,
it.
it's there are like so many
Yeah.
that
It's
it's
a
hard
rabbit
to-
hole, especially if you can only pick one or two. You think, oh no, what?
Yeah.
Do I pick him? Yeah,
Yeah.
It's
So
difficult.
yeah, so here's another one. Again, this is kind of a crossover between history and faith. Martin Luther. Martin Luther, the reformer who nailed the theses on the Church of Wittenberg and started the Protestant Reformation, and was basically declared a heretic and went through crazy things. If you read stuff with Martin Luther, the dude was hilarious as well. So I'm a little bit of an internet troll. So
we know.
I take
we know.
take a certain degree of pleasure in getting people spun up online, like people who are over serious and everything like that.
Yeah.
And
Well-
I think Martin Luther would be a hilarious dude online.
Well, we had also a question: do comments impact you? But we skipped that one because of the time. But
The answer is no. They do not.
Yeah, we wanted to talk about your some of your audience people with the comments and stuff. But
Before this, when we were doing that list and that do comments impact you, Sander straight away said he's just going to say no, and I'm like, okay, should we keep the question in anyway? Yeah, that'd be fine.
Let's do it.
A lot of people think that it affects me. They think that by me responding and reposting the comments, I'll repost stuff.
Yeah.
Along with my
I do look forward to that happening.
And some people, they'll respond, "Oh man, I'm sorry that this is happening to you." Oh, and they have some nice, encouraging things to say, as if that. And I think the impression that they have is that it has impacted me emotionally, and that I'm, feeling bad about this negative comment.
Yeah.
In reality, I think it's hilarious. It impacts me not at all.
It's more the mind blowing, mind baffling of how stupid some people are.
Yeah,
right?
and basically,
Literally.
when I post those comments, it's me holding up a mirror to all of us, me included, and saying, "Hey, look at how ridiculous this person is."
Yeah.
I always love it on a
don't be like
don't
them.
be
Yeah,
don't be like them.
It's always on my coffee break at work when I'm just having a look through like socials, just doom scrolling, and I'm like, oh, another JD banger. And I start reading the comments. And I'm just like, yes, my day's 10 times better already.
But sometimes you would not share everything on Instagram.
no.
I mean, you would just put it in the group chat, like on behind the scenes. You're like, look at this one, and we were like,
Yeah.
ooh,
Because I could overdo it, and my whole feed online would just be nothing but me responding to ridiculous people.
Yeah.
The best ones are the ones that I roast and they don't know that they're being roasted.
Yeah, that's also true. I love Chris always. A whole text with complaints, and then Chris is just like, "Sir, this is a Wendy's." I just love that one as well. Okay, we're wrapping up with one last question.
Yeah, sure.
And we have two, sort of, but that's you'll see at the end. So if you could, it's sort of the same question as we had before, but then differently. If you could observe one historic event in history, what would it be? And you cannot say Gettysburg, because that's probably number one on your list.
That would be up there.
Okay.
That would certainly be up there. Yeah, I want to try and stay away from D-Day or anything like that. Let me try and access something that I think would.
The way I think of that question is: imagine yourself as a drone, like in real life, observing it from above,
literally
and
observe,
being able to kind of fly around and view it.
Yeah. I'll tell you. Oh, well, you took Gettysburg off the table.
I knew you were because we've talked about this before. You said Gettysburg, I remember.
Yeah. Oh, I'll tell you what. Another one that would really be something to see. Shaun, I know you're British. Don't get offended by this. I would love to see the first shots that were fired at Lexington and Concord in the American Revolution, and see how that went down.
I see this, where this is. That's a good answer.
Yeah, that would be something to see. Because a lot of people, they talk about the first shots that were fired at Lexington and then at the bridge at Concord. But those old boys from the British Army had one heck of an ordeal trying to get back to Boston. There's this thing called the Battle Road, and basically they stuck their neck way out, and then after the engagement at Concord, it's kind of like a hornet's nest where like these ungrateful colonials start coming out of the woodwork, and as they're coming back, they're like running the gauntlet and are just being shot at the entire time. And that is such a pivotal moment in my own country's history that seeing that, or maybe seeing the signing of the first signatures that went down on the Declaration of Independence.
Yeah,
I think
that's a good one.
That would be something. I just to hear
what the
like what those guys said.
Like fly on the wall, just listening in and hear what they said. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So was it this highly reverent moment that they had? I would like to think that it wasn't, but they still knew how important it was. But maybe there was maybe a little bit of chest thumping and like, all right, here we go.
Oh man, just imagine like in the afterlife you could do that. Just go back into history and just observe like a fly on the wall. Like, oh man.
Yeah, there's so many. There's so many. Cannae.
So
all kinds of stuff.
Cannae, oh man, for me as well, like Punic Wars.
Yeah.
I would love to just observe that. Waterloo.
Yeah.
The defeat of Napoleon. Well, we could go on and on and on about that, but
sure.
So it's been 1 hour and 12 minutes almost.
Okay. Man, that went by fast.
It went by really fast. So that's why I always say like podcast needs to be longer than an hour, but not everybody has the time to completely watch it, right? We're not the Joe Rogans or Lex Friedmans of the history space. Not yet. Not yet. So what's coming up on your channel? What can people expect? And where can they find you?
So yeah, in the near future, the next big thing from the time that we are recording this is going to be the Market Garden series that we mentioned earlier. I'll tell you what, I spent some time on YouTube looking around to see like what was out there, mainly preparing, trying to educate myself. There's less Market Garden material out there than what I would have expected. And I think we're going to show some things that haven't been shown on YouTube before.
Yeah.
And then big picture, kind of, looking way out, next year is going to be the 250th anniversary of our country. So I'm wanting to spend a little bit more time hitting some American Revolution stuff. Going to be I have plans on going to a battlefield that an ancestor of mine fought at, a guy by the name of Abednego Inman. He immigrated to the United States from Britain in the mid 1700s, like around 1750. Ran with Daniel Boone over the Appalachian Mountains. Got into a fight with some Native Americans and got whacked in the head with a tomahawk, and then was involved with a pretty big battle in the southern part of the theater during the American Revolution. So yeah, I want to go walk the ground and see where he fought.
That sounds, because obviously, like for me, I don't really know much about that, and just the way you're telling it, I'm like, I need to hear this story.
Another rabbit hole.
There were some tough old boys, man.
100%.
Oh, I bet there were. Yeah. Well, JD, Thank you. Second episode of Trails of History podcast is done.
Yeah,
We did
appreciate
it.
what you guys are doing, man.
I had a nice Belgian beer lined up where I was going to open it and just toast to you, JD, and say cheers, but I accidentally drank it last night. So I've got a Welsh ale instead. So cheers to you.
Yeah,
It all works.
I guys want to cheers, boys. Cheers. That was a good podcast. Thank you, JD. Thanks.
Jocko.
Jocko. Yeah,
All right,
thanks for taking the time for us, mate. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Salute.